Okay, guys, great to be here. Sorry for that little bit of a technical hiccup. But I'm glad we are able to get started. Just about me a little bit. I've my own personal career. I have worked in commerce, retail, in the intersection of commerce, retail, and CPG for last almost couple decades now. Primarily working at companies like eBay, AB InBev, Sam's Club, Walmart, and currently GoDaddy. I'm very, very new at GoDaddy, just clocking 30 days. It's a brand new industry that I'm just getting ramped up on. I personally believe in being student for life, and you'll see some of my beliefs on the top, which is like stay curious, and I try and put that to practice. I've been going back to school every year for last 16 years now. I like to believe that I never graduated out because I think there's always something to learn. So that's about me. I also have a GoDaddy website called crazyproductguy.com in case you want to reach out to me. With that, I'll get going. I think today what I want to talk about, and it kind of really nicely blends into the previous speech, which is around orchestration and process and business first and e-commerce second or online second. It kind of lends in really well into that. So the idea is, how do you get started with digital? I'm not saying e-commerce or online. I'm just saying digital more broadly because, and I'll get to it. How do you enable digital, and how do you truly enable technology to help with with your day-to-day operations? And that could be backend within your ecosystem or with your customers, which is the commerce side of things. How do you blend all of that together with the digital first kind of approach in the retail, and how do you approach that entire journey and how to be successful? So I think a lot of the things that you will see in next few slides are based on my experience working at Sam's Club, leading product for membership and marketing, incubating Walmart Plus last year at Walmart, and then a little bit from this year, from my current job at GoDaddy, trying to stand up a subscription model that really works. The previous speaker spoke about project management and having an orchestrator. I guess it's the same thing. I'm just going to kind of double click into that, and I just call that as a product mindset. So whenever we encroach or get into a problem space, and before choosing what is the best way to solve it, whether digital or not, I think it is really critical for all of us to kind of understand three specific things, right? Like, and think of it as a very broad framework and can be applied to pretty much any problem. What is the real life problems that we are trying to solve for our customers? How will we know that we solve the problems? And then the third one is, how will we test, learn, and iterate to improve, right? Because I think these three are very, very fundamental questions, and if you don't have answers to these three questions, then you're going approaching the problem in a not so correct way. And I'll give you some examples from the commerce side, from loyalty side, and also from building that ecosystem, leveraging partners. But I wanted to make sure that we spend maybe first 5 minutes on the framework itself, so that the rest of the case studies and some of the problems that I'll discuss in today, will make total sense. So I think the first thing to do is, as you're venturing into the digital kind of a ecosystem or a digital space, I think the first thing is to make some fundamental cultural mind shifts, move away from the IT mindset to a more like a product mindset. And I'll talk to you about what that difference is, right? So, and I'm not going to read through the slide. You can all see the slide. I think the key thing here is, the fundamental concept is that you want a champion for your customers within your organization, because marketing is going to worry about marketing, merchandising is going to worry about how do they sell their merchandise, but you also need a third important pillar within the company, who are going to be your customer champions. So essentially, in on if you look at it from an old school of working the IT mindset, I think it feels like technology and product and program management, all of them are there to serve the business. That's not essentially true. I think on the product side, you really want the product managers to be the champions of the customers. The second important thing is data, right? Like having a very clear data driven approach is both for requirement gathering, for measuring success, for measuring metrics, for driving cross-functional alignment. Like essentially, data is like the single most important thing. And when I say data, I mean both quantitative data and qualitative data. And I think the magic really happens when you have an amalgamation of both of them. I think that's going to be super critical. Um, and then the core job of a product manager essentially is also to bring together like a cross-functional team, so that you're harnessing all of your internal assets from a company standpoint to be able to really go solve that problem, because it cannot be solved in silos for sure, right? And then the team is really focused on driving results and is comfortable iterating through it, and also is comfortable failing, but fail fast and fail cheap, so that you can pick the learnings and make sure that you're not committing the same mistakes again. So that's like a fundamental, initial concept. I think a layer into that is the idea that you really want a customer obsessed culture, that really drives new products and experiences, not just incremental changes, but also some very fundamental changes. And those changes could be to the business model, to be on the technology side, and also to be from leveraging new ways of solving the same problem. I always say that as product managers, you always want to fall in love with the problem, not the solution, because one solution may work today, may not tomorrow, or the technology may evolve. So never marry yourself to the solution, marry yourself to the problem. I think the other key aspect of this, especially in very large companies, this may not be so true in startup kind of an environment, because that's not a big hassle in startups. But essentially in large organizations, you really want to, as I said, start with the customer needs, start with the data. But I think the key part of this is also make it more like a team effort and make sure that you have the right metrics and right KPIs, and those should be customer-centric KPIs. And you want to make sure that you are truly paving the path and unblocking the path and the road for your team, as so that they can, each team should have a very clear customer metric that they're chasing after, and they are continuing to iterate till they have really reached that measurement of success that has been set out at the beginning. And I'm kind of going a little faster on some of these slides because the idea is to get to some of the case studies quickly. But I'll be happy to take questions after. So another key thing, and I saw this on the previous speaker, said measure twice and cut once. And I think that's exactly what this is, right? Like you want to make sure that before you start building stuff, you do like an end-to-end discovery and a hypothesis testing before even writing the first line of code. And the reason I say that is because I think technology and the cross-functional team and the bandwidth and the effort that goes into building these products can be very, very expensive at times, because remember we said we are not going to just build incremental products. We are also going to do fundamental shifts in both the business model in terms of how certain operations are done in the company. So these are huge, massive transformation projects, and you really want to make sure that you've given it a best shot before you actually start building some of these products out. And a lot of testing is super important, and to ensure that you have a product market fit before you actually go out and go all in. So there is nothing wrong in being a little doubtful and trust but confirm before you go all in. So what were some of the problems? So I'll go through 3 specific customer problems in this session today. The first one is, and the first one is from Sam's Club. I'll also tell you which companies I'm referring to as I go through each one of these. But I think, the first customer problem is they really don't like standing in checkout lines. And the hypothesis that we came up with is that the customers are busy, don't have time to stand in long lines for checkout every time they shop. And this is also a little ironical because you let the customers in the retail world shop as much as possible, without any friction. But the moment they want to pay you money, you add a friction of, creating a line and, adding wait time and all of that. So how did we solve this problem? So we started the customer problem around time that they spent on checkout. And a lot of this is little older data. given I no longer work with Sam, so I just wanted to make sure that there is no proprietary information here. This is about a couple years old data, but essentially what we said is one of the biggest negative impact on NPS, which is Net Promoter Score. Think of it as a customer satisfaction score, is checkout lines. So we first looked at both qualitative and quantitative data to ensure that we are solving, or we are set out on a journey to solve the right problem. And some of the customer feedback was took twice as long to check out than to collect my items. My only complaint is the exit. The lines for the checkout were too long. 30% more transactions on weekends, so it really adds a lot more pressure during the time when customers are really shopping. So what did we do? We built this solution called a Scan and Go, and we really built this, and this was like about a few years back, is we had two engineers and one designer and one product manager really go spend a weekend shopping at one of our stores and say that, hey, how can you really go hack some solution very quickly to really validate the hypothesis. So the first thing that we did is the two people that you see really came up with this idea of building a solution called a Scan and Go. And the way we did that is it was more like an assisted checkout, where customers, after they finish shopping, would come, and these guys would pick up their phone and start scanning some of the items in their cart and see how if they check out. And that's probably like a more one-to-one personalized service, very different from the product that is live today. Obviously, it has gone through many iterations, but I'm telling you a story of the genesis of this product, and which is more interesting. So that's all it started with. So as you can see, very low investment, 4 to 5 people spending couple weeks trying to hack a solution, working through in a very scrappy startup-ish way. Then we built out like the first level of solution. And you can actually see some of the older data here, because when we built out the solution, we put together like a real clear MVP solution that we had launched just for 1 to 10 clubs, and we started driving adoption within those clubs. And what we saw was an immediate validation of product market fit and customer NPS. Right, you can see some of the customer feedbacks here. The app is a bomb, fast and easy. I'm out of the door, no waiting, right? All of that. So I think it kind of immediately validated the initial hypothesis. So essentially, you again started with a problem, which is customer don't want to wait. Then you came up with a solution which is really centered around the problem that we started off with. And then you want to run some very immediate tests to make sure that you're validating that the solution you chose really solves the problem. And then you can see more of these, and these are all public data. So you can actually see a lot of this YouTube videos, of talking about how customers find it really fast, easy, and super awesome, to be completely empowered to walk in and walk out. And then what we did is we really learned from the data, and we really found some other corner cases, right? When you solve one problem, you end up creating smaller problems, and hopefully those are smaller. So you end up going into iteration, which is why test and iteration is super important. We did find, some of risks around fraud, guest checkout, and robust. We needed a robust platform. The scrappy one is no longer can no longer scale. So then you make an investment, but you make an investment to building some of these features after you've tested that the customer really likes, and it really solves a customer problem that you really set out to go solve. So that's essentially the first thing. And I'm again, I want to be respectful of time, so I want to make sure we're not overshooting the time. Okay, so we do have. So I'll go through a couple other examples. So the second problem that we saw, and this is in the context of membership overall, and I don't think this is a very specific company problem. I think this is more of an industry problem. Is whenever you are paying for membership or loyalty or subscription, the general thing one of the topmost industry problem that you see is customers sometimes don't see value in membership, right? I kid you not, this can be relevant in any industry. From a retail standpoint or commerce standpoint, I think some of the traits of our labs members was the fact that they don't really buy fresh items, which is the core categories for at least the industry that we were in. They don't really buy in all the categories, or they don't really engage themselves across maximizing the value of all the different values and the breadth that the offering can provide. And then there's a low awareness overall, right? So some of the customer, if you see verbatums where this does not seem like a fun place to shop, I don't think this is a fit for me, how do I know I'm getting good deal, I didn't go to shopping enough, right? So essentially you're saying that you're not engaging enough for you to realize the value, even if the value exists. So I think one of the things that we came up with is what we called as new member treasure hunt. So essentially what we started with the data insight, again, going back to marrying and being centered around the problem rather than a solution. So the key thing that we did is we started on the data side, and we looked and we said, okay, so it's very hard to go build a solution for every single use case or scenario of shopping journey. So we have to get super focused to ensure that how do we really solve the problem. Otherwise, you will end up doing a lot of spray and pray. Like you will end up doing small things across the entire journey, and you will not see the kind of impact that you want to see, and which will not validate your hypothesis, which will further create a problem of, you won't know how to proceed with the journey that you're in. So it was super critical for us to get focused first. So I think the first thing we did is we started with the data crunching using our data science team. And we said, like, out of all of the journeys, which one is the most important? And what we found out was that out of all of from a customer insight standpoint, we came up with an algorithm which basically said with very high confidence or prediction rate that out of all of the things, the first 2 weeks of a new member is the most critical, because that's essentially, behavior scientists often swear by the 21-day rule. In our case, I think the algorithm said that the first 12 days or first 14 days, essentially 2 weeks, is going to be super critical of a new member, and that helps shapes the behavior. So the impact of anything that you do within the first 2 weeks is going to be the most, impact will continue to be there further along in that life cycle, but it's going to be the highest, if you're able to make a dent within the first 2 weeks. So we also realized that first 2 weeks, even within first 2 weeks, if you have to go even more high, if you want to get even more hyper focused, we said that let's focus on the first shopping journey that you have, instead of, and that could be on day 0, could be on day 1, it could be on day 12, after you've become a member or a subscriber. So with that hypothesis, we came up with what we called as new member treasure hunt. So essentially speaking, this is nothing but, we said, let's go back and look at some of the customer verbatim. We said, the customer said that it was not fun to shop. Customer said that it takes too long, and they don't see enough value, and they kind of felt like they didn't know what the value was. So essentially speaking, I think what we did is we took all of those and we gamified your first day of shopping in a way that we can make it fun. We can expose you to all the different benefits and value that we provide. And 3, also make it convenient, not only for that particular shopping journey, but also for subsequent shopping journeys. So we looked at category penetration, frequency, and channel penetration. And channel here refers to convenience of future shopping, which is basically enabling them on digital or mobile app and online shopping. Frequency here essentially goes back to getting the customers back again more frequently, which is a leading indicator to say that they are seeing value. And then category essentially talks about penetration, which means that yes, it's again a second leading indicator to say that yes, they have found value in both the depth and the breadth of the offering that you have. So I think the key part of this entire case study is the fact of how we approach it. So just to put down the customer journey, the new member comes, signs up for membership, they get like a flyer, they go and scan a link. So we did not put it in the app because we know that app download at that point of time when we launched this was was a friction point. We wanted to learn fast and learn more. So essentially, we created a mobile site where they just go enter the email address and they get to play. And what we did is, we will nudge them to different parts of the store, and as they engage in those, they would be rewarded at the end of the shopping trip with a gift card. So we actually went through 4 to 5 different iterations on this. The first iteration, before we go here, the first iteration was essentially using post-it notes. So we built zero tech, zero product. So the first iteration was that we just gave them a post-it note, asked them and gave them a sheet with 4 to 5 questions, asked them to answer those questions within the post-it note, hand over the post-it note before they exit the store, and then we gave them a gift card, a physical gift card. Iteration 2, as we learned out of this process, iteration 2, we built this particular detail that you see in the slide, which is essentially a mobile website. And all of this was built using third party, because we had still not validated the hypothesis enough to make internal investments using our own resources for this one. So we used a third party to go build the site, and we would email them a digital gift card at the end of it. And in the process, we ended up capturing the email address, which helped them get them activated on digital as well. Iteration 3, we integrated this with our core mobile app, and this is the point when we brought this in-house. And then iteration 4, we moved away from giving gift cards, because gift cards is prone to a lot of fraud and a lot of different issues, accounting issues. So we moved that into providing instant savings or offers on existing products, so that it's more seamless. And we, by the time, we already know what is the shopping purchase and which products they find value, so we were able to provide offers on those products. And iteration 5, we actually went to talk to our suppliers, the products, the people who actually manufactured those products, and we were able to get them to fund the offer that we put together. So essentially, we focus on the customer on 4 iterations out of 5, and in the 5th iteration, we actually monetize the product to make sure that we are still driving the same customer value, but we are no longer funding it. We are getting it funded by our suppliers, who essentially are finding more value because it's essentially driving their P&L and bottom line as well. So that's the whole thing. So hopefully you can relate back to the framework, right? Once you center on a customer problem, and once you articulate the problem and the hypothesis in a very clear way, you actually have multiple different paths to go solve that problem. You can choose the best possible path that you feel at that point of time, which may or may not work. And if you know that didn't work, that's fine. You move on to the next one. But the idea is that you want enough commitment to make sure that the problem is still relevant and it's still worth putting in that kind of an investment. So we actually saw, increases in all of the metrics that we had set out to define the success. And then we also saw a lot of customer surveys and customer feedback, both formally and informally. And we then used that to, we iterated through this entire journey, as I spoke, in 4 or 5 big iterations. And we ran about 60 experiments in about 20 weeks across various different clubs. And then we further integrated this, as I said, with our core app and with the technology that exists both in store and connecting that with the omni-channel or the retail digital experience. Then the third problem is actually a problem, it should say 3, my apologies, it's not problem 2. But the third problem essentially is to is essentially to figure out a problem where the customers told us that they don't like finding their favorite items out of stock. And now this is a slightly interesting problem, because this is to show that you want to commit to the framework and the hypothesis rather than the solution. So there is a twist to the story, which I'll get to very quickly. So our customers are disrupted during the shopping experience because the items is out of stock. 1 out of 4 customers couldn't find the item that they came in for. NPS for in-stock merchandise is 10 points lower than the overall NPS because they're not able to find the products that they really want. So the solution we came up with was what we called as endless aisle. You see this in a lot of different stores, and this is about a few years back as well at Sam's. So the original customer problem, in terms of the key hypothesis that we wanted to learn, was around discoverability, proactive monitoring, ease of use, and multifunctionality. Essentially, these were the leading indicators to say whether we are really solving that customer problem, yes or no. So we actually went out and made these endless aisles for very specific categories within the store. So we would see them in categories like furnitures and office and jewelry and essentially items which have a long tail of merchandise. And we saw some early success because this was a really cool toy out there in the store that everyone wanted to play with. But if you go, but so it's very important the kind of measure that you use, because the kind of measure that you choose sometimes can be misleading. In this case, if we had chosen number of sessions or number of touch, we would have been misled, because there was a lot of touch, as you can imagine, because people wanted to were just curious and wanted to play around with it more as a toy. But I think the key thing that we had set out is how many purchase, because that's essentially is the problem that you set out to solve. You want to make sure that the customer problem you're solving is their favorite item is out of stock, and you're using digital to go solve that problem. So which means that they should actually be buying those items. Like there will obviously be like a conversion funnel which says more people interact and less people purchase, but you still want to set out like a minimum bar of what is that number of purchases that you need for this product, for this hypothesis to be true. We went through some of these changes, and essentially what we came down was that it really did not meet the thresholds that we had set out. We did couple iterations, but at that point of time we just concluded that the product market fit was really not achieved. So the twist in the story is we actually discontinued this product, after running this test. So which basically, and we went out and solved those in a different way eventually. But I think I just wanted to harp the idea that it's sometimes it's easier said than done, but pulling the plug is often one of the most hardest of the problems. Especially if you feel fully vested as a company to do, but sometimes it's the right thing to do, and which is why I think it kind of goes back and you want to validate your hypothesis that you really want to fall in love with the problem rather than the solution. So I will pause there. I guess we have about 10 minutes. I would be happy to take questions.
Yes. Thank you, Vinod, for your speech. It was really interesting, and I think that nowadays we have such speed that it's very important for people not to stay much time on checkouts and spend their time in such events. Like so we have TikTok nowadays. So people really don't want to spend their time even watching long videos. So the first question was from Pavel. Where did you study marketing?
Where did I study marketing?
Where did you study marketing?
Well, I would say that I studied marketing on the job. Well, in terms of formal education, as I said, I think it's very hard for me to put my finger on something, because learning is a continuous journey. In terms of, if I were to take the old school path, I would say I've studied marketing doing an MBA back in India. But I've continued studied, if you see some of my certifications, most of them are centered around marketing. So around loyalty, around, product management, digital, a lot of the different areas. So I think, and the biggest learning that you get is on the job, because I think every industry is different. It's not about learning theories, it's about practical implementation of those. So and you'll have to be contextual, and you'll have to adapt and change for the scenario that you're put into. So I don't, as I said, I'm truly believe in being. Belief is something very, very core. So that's why I use the word belief rather than I think. So I truly believe that I'm studying and learning marketing every single day, because customer science and customer behavior is constantly changing. As Nikita, you just said, like with TikTok and conversational commerce and a lot of things. It's not just how, it's also the what. and the why, which is changing pretty rapidly. So you just have to keep studying for sure forever.
Yeah, yeah. So the next question's from Nikki. Here in Qatar, Carrefour is already implementing this scan and go, but how can they be sure customers are able to scan everything on their cards?
Well, I think that's where the real metrics and the measurement that you put in place comes into picture, right? So you not only have to see customer metrics, you also have to see technical metrics, right? Like how many crashes, how many nil scan, right? How many session failures. All of those are leading indicators, right? How many scans which are incorrect, right? So I think you'll have to put in place customer metrics, but like being centered around customers, but you also have to look at the whole ecosystem of metrics and KPIs that would give you sensing and demand sensing to make sure that your hypothesis is being validated. So that's why I think I really like the word. The previous speaker said measure twice, cut once. I've said that with multiple different ways, but it's essentially the same. I think you want to spend more time upfront making sure that you have the right hypothesis, right problem, right measurement, which is the step 2 in that whole framework. You want to make sure to define the success in a most appropriate way. So you would want to do that before you start building anything, or spending any more time. I think that's the first thing that you need to be spending time on. And to be honest, I'm putting that into practice. As I said, I'm 30 days into my new job, and most of my focus right now is around metrics and scorecards. You then get to insights and customer problems and the path and the how and the roadmap and prioritization and everything that follows, right? Marketing, product market fit, value prop, everything follows after that.
Oh, thank you. And this third question, how do you see the future of e-commerce and what technologies are good contribution to the future of the store?
Yeah, so I would say that if I were to put my finger on one thing, I would say personalization is going to be critical for e-commerce. And I don't say, and my definition of personalization is slightly different from the definition which is right now in the industry, right? Like I don't mean personalization being next best product algo, basically telling you what is the next item that you want. I don't mean that. That's a level 1 of personalization. What I mean by truly personalization is being able to assess the customer demand, right? And sometimes even predicting customer demand, and being able to do that in a truly personalized way. And when I say that, I mean being able to personalize what you buy, which brand, at what price, in what channel, in what area, when do you need it, how should it be delivered, how much price are you willing to pay for that, and then in what quantity. So essentially, if you are able to optimize for all of this, so you can think about this, if I were to take this futuristic vision and paint it and put it in the current boxes, you're talking about channels, right? Are you going to pick up? Are you going to deliver? Are you going you need it in 1 hour, 2 hours, same day, next day, 3 days, all of that. So that's one bucket. The second bucket is how are you going to shop? And we are truly talking omni-channel. You can look for something on mobile and buy it in store. You can look for something in store, buy it on mobile. You can think of something and just say it to your Siri or Alexa or Google Home, right? Or you
Yeah.
you could be shopping in the house. You could be shopping in car. You could be just thinking. Eventually you'll just think and the product arrives, right? Or you get products based on things that you have high propensity for, and then you basically will reach a point where they would be like, oh, we believe you need this product. If you don't need it, just return it. And they'll then go, we can just then go reduce the friction on returns. That way you don't even have to place an order, right? So I think, and dynamic pricing has been an area which has been experimented for last 6-7 years now, or even more. We've seen the goods and the bads of dynamic pricing. A lot of big companies have been in news for failing on, how many times have we seen products being sold for 1 penny because the algorithm failed, right? So I think we have seen good, bad, and ugly of that. So I think pricing is a key component of it. So essentially, if you just package all of those things, and there's much more, I'm just trying to retrofit it just for broader understanding. But if you're able to combine all of that and personalize the whole package, imagine it's going to be like a multivariate problem, right? It's not just one variable. If you're able to do that, that's what I call as true personalization.
Thank you for your answers. Thank you for your speech, Vinod. I hope we will meet each other on other events. And now,
Absolutely. I'm
yeah, yeah. Have a good morning. Have a nice day.
absolutely. Thank you. Appreciate, and it
Thank
was
you.
great
Thank you.
having me here. Yeah. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.